Hi, I'm Jesse Gillis, the host of the program, Now is the Time to Talk. Tonight, we're going to be talking about U.S. foreign policy, and I have a first-time guest, Karina Quintans? Quintans. My apologies.
It's okay.
What is the background? What is Quintans?
It's actually a Spanish name, but the Spanish colonized the Philippines. So my roots are from the Philippines, but the Spanish part comes from the colonization of the Philippines.
I'm going to introduce you now.
Okay.
I'd never said your last name before, and I just realized that I was oh my goodness.
It's okay.
Quintans. So, Karina Quintans, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting through our work in Peace Coalition, the New Hampshire Coalition for Just Peace in the Middle East. In preparation for the show, you gave me some background, and I had to do a little digging, for which I had no idea outside of what your work was. You were born in the U.S. to Filipino immigrants, but raised in Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Europe. You're a photographer and a content writer here in New Hampshire. Part of what has shaped you is what happened on 9/11 to the people at the World Trade Center and the global war on terror perpetuated at home and abroad. On your blog, I see the subtitled description of generalist, humanist, wayfarer, and third culture kid, which brings many questions to mind. I've never heard of third culture kid before. Would you mind sharing this insight? Because that was something.
Yeah. It's not a super well-known term, and I didn't come across it until, I guess, far into my adulthood, but it helped to explain, I guess, a person like me who grew up kind of in a mixed culture setting. But third culture kid means that you're being raised in a culture outside of your parents' culture and the culture of the place that you were born. So in my case, when we moved to Saudi Arabia, actually I would almost call myself a fourth culture kid because I did have, like, you know, the American culture from where I was born, my parents' culture, who they grew up as pretty conservative Catholic Filipinos their whole life. And then I'm living in the culture of Saudi Arabia, which is very super conservative with lots of rules about public behavior. And then I went to school with kids from all around the world. So it's kind of like this massive culture clash, and you're trying to make sense of your life and what your identity is. But the term carries with people that tend to move around a lot and are always living outside of their home culture or their parents' culture, and then how it forms their worldview and their ability to navigate the world, basically.
Yeah. For the years, it was your, we would say middle school, high school, you were in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I was overseas basically from grades 6 to 12.
Wow.
Except for, Puerto Rico, it's a territory, but it's still kind of like being overseas. I lived there for 2 years as a toddler.
What brings us together, the coalition work, was what was nationally going on? Were you aware of that? Because you're thrown into another culture, you're learning how conservative Islam in Saudi Arabia, and your upbringing here. Was there anything going on at the time? What years were those?
Sorry, could you reframe your question?
I apologize, that was really long. In Saudi Arabia, what years were you in Saudi Arabia?
1977 to 1980.
Oh, and I'm trying to think of...
So there was, like, you know, an interesting window there for my parents. I think about this a lot right now, but they were able to go to Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, and Lebanon before everything started to fall apart in that region.
Yeah.
And I didn't go on any of those trips with them, but I have some of the things that they brought home from those trips. But, you know, if I ever go to any of those places, it'll not be the same place that they saw in the late 70s before massive U.S. intervention.
Yeah. And that was, you went to Saudi Arabia, your dad was an engineer?
Yes.
And I hear so much work goes into Saudi Arabia. A lot of people go there, international travel. I've never been. I've been to the UAE, but amazed at like, oh my goodness, how many different cultures are here?
Yeah.
How many different ethnicities? How many people are brought together for whatever project it is?
Right.
Do you keep in contact with any friends from that time period?
Absolutely. We are super, super, super tight.
Is anyone from the U.S.?
They're all mostly Americans. I mean, even if they have like their native culture. I mean, there was Lebanese friends, Egyptian friends, Australians. So, but a lot of them were also American citizens. So the company was based in California. So a lot of them came from California, but a lot of them just came from other project sites because the company my dad worked for was is or was the largest privately held engineering construction firm in the country, and they had projects in like 70 countries at any given time, and people were always shuffling or getting reassigned to other projects.
Okay.
But in the 70s, so many people came into Saudi Arabia because they were building infrastructure. And so while I was exposed to tons of culture, also like Indians, Pakistanis, like almost every continent, I think, maybe except for, I think every continent was represented except Antarctica. So we had a really unique living situation where we were kind of living in a construction camp. So we all lived in double-wide trailers. Because the project was to build an industrial city from what was a fishing village on the Persian Gulf.
Did it take, I can't imagine the time frame for how long that took.
They called it a 20-year project, but it had subsequent phases.
Yeah.
I think they might be on phase 3 now. The project was once in the Guinness Book for the biggest infrastructure project ever executed.
Is it a major city now?
Yeah.
I don't know that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's called Jubail Industrial City.
Oh, okay.
Actually, they were bombed a couple weeks ago by Iran, one of their petrochemical plants.
Oh, yeah.
But so we didn't have a lot to do when we were living there. Like, they were still building homes for families. That's why we lived in double-wide trailers. They were still building our school. They were still building our rec center. So there was 1 or 2 years where we just hung out on the streets, bought boom boxes, had our bikes, and like just spent hours together doing nothing but having the best time.
Yeah, nothing but bikes. I can imagine my childhood. Bikes, riding around with friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we're super close to this day. We always have reunions, and I see a handful of them regularly, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. At some point, you went and got your master's degree in international affairs. How is that? Was that useful for today? Was that, I don't know how to...
It was, but I had a very different interest at the time. Like, I was really interested in the environment. I mean, I still am. But like currently, that's not what I work on. I just try to live my environmental values. But at the time, I went there to study ways that we could protect the environment in developing countries while also developing industry and job opportunity, economic opportunity for these developing countries. And I had a very special focus. I looked at the role of bamboo in all these different places because it's a very prolific vegetation that's really inexpensive, and it's literally found everywhere around the world. And so I studied a project in Costa Rica for like 3 months, and they were using bamboo as an alternative building material in an earthquake zone because it's like an earthquake-proof building material.
Okay.
And that was what my thesis was on. And then I worked in that for a little bit. but I also worked on other projects, and I kind of became a little bit cynical about, I don't know, development projects.
Yeah.
Because there's always a
Rightfully.
little bit of a dependency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just takes a long time to see the results, and like, can you ever wean off of U.S. aid to truly become an independent, thriving economy?
Yeah.
So I stopped doing that work after like 5 or 7 years.
That's hard. You open a box, you look at something, you get into the weeds, and you're like, oh my goodness, it looks good for everybody who's going to read this literature, but for the people there.
Yeah. It's a very interesting field to work, for sure. Maybe if I had, I don't know, I think there are areas of development that I might have felt more comfortable in, but ultimately I just left that work and did something else. But yeah, it does inform, what I do today to some degree, but I would just say just living overseas in general informed my, what I do today in terms of foreign policy advocacy.
Yeah. And that upbringing in Saudi Arabia, we didn't talk about Venezuela. One of the things that you'd stressed and what you'd shared with me, what 9/11 did, and your background before 9/11 influencing how you received 9/11, how it affected you, and what happened after. What would you like to say? Like, what changed? 9/11 happens. I forget. I think you were in D.C. at the time.
Yeah, I was in Fairfax, Virginia, actually, on 9/11, so just south of D.C. There's that initial horror, and then if I had to remind myself of what I was doing in the immediate months after 9/11, because I did get on the whole patriotic bandwagon and was like, all of a sudden, like, I was making flag pins and just doing all those things too. Like, everybody was coming together and wanting to feel strong together and doing things to help 9/11 families. So I was always wearing the flag. We had a yard sale and a bake sale for 9/11 families. But it was really like when they started talking about going to war in Afghanistan and then war in Iraq that I started to come back to reality, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so I was in Fairfax. I was working for a company that had me assigned actually in South America at the time. So for the first, I think I spent one more year going back and forth to South America and feeling a little uncomfortable traveling. The air travel after 9/11 was very scary, and I kind of didn't really want to do that anymore. But I did it a couple more times till I figured out what I was going to do with work. And then I moved back in 2002. I guess it was just 6 months or so. I decided to move back to Boston, and I moved in with a friend who I used to party with all the time in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. But she had completely transformed in that time period that I was away. She was an activist.
Okay.
And she was the president of the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee of Massachusetts.
Wow, okay.
So I started to learn about activism from her. She had a whole library of books about racism and class issues and things that I'd never read about before. And so I spent my time reading her books. I started becoming aware of her work with the ADCMA, and then the whole Iraq war thing came up, and we started going to protests together. And then I got really passionate about stopping this war and humanizing the Iraqi people. So I found this traveling exhibit that was based out of DC from Education for Peace in Iraq. They had a traveling photo exhibit, and it was just photographs of Iraqi people. So I brought it to Boston, and we did 2 or 3 showings, and it was a little bit of, you know, the crowd was much of the choir.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, like most events, you're bringing in some people that don't know, and yeah, this is sort of my first window into like activism and advocacy. I never called Washington though at that time. I was just going to protest. I was just still learning what it meant to be an activist, and finding my way through it. But I found the protests to be very. It's a good thing to be a part of, for the solidarity, for the energy, for the hope that you get from going to protests. And then we did like these amazing showings of this photo exhibit, as I mentioned, and we did a whole educational piece working with kids. And yeah, it was an incredible experience. I've always been anti-war. And I think that was the lens that I was looking at all of that through at the time, with still not really understanding imperialism and foreign policy. Like, I wasn't there yet. My first step was just learning to be an activist and acting on my belief that we should never go to war to solve problems.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge evolution since then. But that next phase of my evolution didn't happen until October 7th.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I answered your question, but...
No. Well, I say no, as in you did. How it impacted you. You move in with somebody who is adamant, who is an activist, and particularly for what's going on, the global war on terror started in October, right? Boots on the ground in Afghanistan. What you think is like they're going to go get this guy, and who knows, it was going to stop only 5 years ago, after like 20 years.
Yeah.
For when that kicked off, what did Afghanistan kicks off? Is there anything from your time in Saudi Arabia that informs how you felt about for U.S. forces going to Afghanistan?
I don't know. I didn't have as much of a reaction to Afghanistan as I did about Iraq. So I don't have a lot to say about that. But just, we were already in one war, and we were going to start another war, and that's where I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And I also have to say that, like, a lot of this does go to the fact that I lived in Saudi Arabia and traveled in and out of the region many times. And I just saw the demonization happening in this country against all Muslims and Arabs. And I was like, these people, they're just people. Like, you can't categorize them all as terrible people, and bombing them is not going to solve anything. And so, yes, my living in Saudi Arabia, even though I didn't have Arab friends, because actually the way they structured life back then was to separate us from the locals. That's why I ended up in Italy later, because at least my understanding is after 9th grade, they don't want teenagers around. So you had to send your kids to school somewhere else.
Okay.
And then we lived in camps that were not intermingled with the local population. The local kids didn't go to our school. They went to their own schools.
Oh.
So it wasn't like I was coming from a place of having all these relationships with Arabs and Muslims. I was coming from a place of, I lived in the Middle East. I've been traveling the world my whole life. And we just can't go around bombing people all the time. They're people just like us, and violence is never the answer.
Was there any, I'm going to read a few statements from officials for going to war in Iraq. I mean, that at the time, like today we can go back and look at like, oh my goodness, this is the same things they were saying in public, total falsifications, total lies. Did it seem like that then? Or did it seem like there was something?
Oh, I completely knew they were lying. I mean, they kept going on the whole WMD thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where I was getting my information at the time because, again, I was really not a political person. But to me, I could just tell they were lying about WMDs. There must have been some alternative conversation going on for me to sort of underscore my belief that they were lying. But, yeah. It just didn't make sense why we were going to Iraq anyway, to begin with.
I was younger at the time. Did the rallies, anti-war rallies, die off after the invasion? It was March 18th, yeah. March 20th?
Yes.
What did you feel with, did you have a reflection upon seeing that, like what happened to the rallies? Are we still supposed to do this, or?
I didn't, because I was mostly taking my cues from other people, but and I think I was actually overseas at the time that we decided to go to war finally. No, I mean, I think I just threw my hands up, me personally, and that was kind of the end of my activism for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't recall what my roommate and her crowd were doing after that, but yeah, apathy set in, I guess.
I never thought about why potentially the movement had died off, but I imagine how similar it would be to like today with what we're doing with Iran. It's not, there's little protests here and there, but it's...
Yeah, there's no protests even really about Gaza anymore.
That's kind of gone.
I mean, I think people are just doing things in different ways now rather than protesting on the streets.
Yeah. It seems like we'll come back to Gaza, Palestine, that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a statement. In my work with the defendants, I was searching for the nature of evil and how I now think I have come close to defining it, a lack of empathy. It's the one characteristic that connects all the defendants, a genuine incapacity to feel with their fellow men. Evil, I think, is the absence of empathy. I'm quoting the U.S. military psychologist Gilbert. He wrote a book. He was the main psychologist trying to get an analysis of the Nuremberg the defenders in Nuremberg, all the war criminals, 21 of them, Goring being the famous.
Yeah.
But empathy, not seeing others as human, just following orders, and these people are. I think of, oh my goodness, these people who are being bombed in Iran.
Yeah.
Or Syria, or Lebanon, or Gaza, West Bank, or who are being killed. Their lives aren't worthy. This is all they know. How close does this feel? Absence of empathy. You just don't see other people as people.
Well, I have a comment and a question, but I assume that when you're going to war, I assume that to some degree you are programmed to dehumanize the people you're about to go to war with. So, because otherwise you couldn't carry out what you have to carry out as a soldier. But yeah, I just recently watched the Nuremberg. I guess it's just called Nuremberg, the film.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, it's...
Yeah. I saw it twice and I actually want to watch it again. But yeah, I mean, I comment a lot on social media about this empathy thing, but like the way that I talk about it is I just know so many people, I encounter a lot of people that in this country that are constantly saying that's too depressing, whatever it is, not just Gaza, but all these terrible things that happen. It's too depressing. I don't want to watch the news. I don't want to, everything's bad news. I don't want to watch the news. And to me, the pattern is that a lot of Americans don't want to feel anything bad. And when you do that, you are dehumanizing not only yourself, but the people around you. And that's where you're lacking empathy. If you can't even look or read about what's happening, because if you can't handle that, it's because it just feels too terrible. Like, that's not even being fully human yourself. Like, I never resist feelings. I actually like to watch really depressing films, books. I don't know how to explain it. Even if they evoke so much emotion in me, that's, to me, the full range of being human, and how you develop empathy for other people by trying to, like, I can't walk in their shoes, but to learn about what it's like to walk in their shoes or to live their life. I don't turn a blind eye, but I think too many people in this country do, because they can't handle it. I don't know, I feel like we have this culture of constantly seeking pleasure and things that make us feel good, and everybody does everything they can to avoid feeling anything negative. And that's directly related to dehumanizing people.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't even humanize yourself by experiencing the full range of emotion, then you're not going to be able to do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of this quote that somebody said in the West Bank when I was there. He said, if I don't have peace within me, then I can't offer peace to others.
Yeah. How can you offer somebody else a sense of humanity if you don't have it for yourself?
Yeah.
It's this, what's going on post October 2023, it was on social media. You can easily see this. The younger generation sees this. The older generations don't see it if they don't have.
Yeah.
But to see it and then still ignore it and know that it's not just something happening somewhere on the other side of the planet. It brings up that uncomfortable, like, do I have responsibility, and shying away from that responsibility?
Yeah.
And what does that cost a person when they shy away from that, looking the other way, no matter how bad it is or how close it is or how connected we are to it?
Yeah.
It changed what I focus on when I became aware and started paying attention. And I was like, how can you ignore this?
Yeah.
It feels way too close.
It also amazes me. I don't know if we're going to shift to the topic now of Palestine, but, only being in the movement now for like almost 3 years, and being with people like Amy Antonucci and so many others who've been working on Palestine for decades. Like, I can't imagine. It's a long time to work on this, and how did they maintain hope, and how did they keep moving forward with it? And, being part of the coalition and knowing Amy and others has helped me to understand, like, the kind of progress we have actually made, because they bring a perspective to it that I didn't have when I wasn't involved for the last, basically, since we went to war in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, my roommate at the time was the one that told me about Palestine. She just showed me the map. You know that series of maps that shows you what happens to the land? Like, that's what she showed me back then, and I never forgot it. But I never acted on it at the time.
It feels distant. Same, I'd heard of things. Even after October, I was like, oh, there's another thing going on, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's not until I actually look and I pay attention. Oh my goodness, what is being allowed right now? That's just there if you want to open that door.
Yeah.
It brings up, I pulled up a few quotes. I bring up on September 16th, 2001, George Bush gets up there and he says, "This is a new kind of evil, and we understand. And the American people are beginning to understand. This crusade, this war on terrorism is going to take a while, and the American people must be patient. I'm going to be patient." He invokes the crusade, that crusader language, reminiscent of 1,000 years ago, against how many people dehumanize them. This is the way they live. This is all they know. Everybody's suspect. We think of through the drone wars, every male over the age of 16 was considered a militant combatant. And I think of how many, we're in a high school now. We have combatants everywhere, apparently, if they were in the wrong country. If this was a place under U.S. occupation, how many of these kids would be considered combatants?
Yeah.
Or just other people?
I mean, I don't remember what I thought at the time exactly about the language that he's using there, but now, with all that's happened in the last 3 years and all the research that I've done, to me it's so transparent, like they're just fear-mongering so they can justify their war. They're manufacturing consent by using all those words that he's using. For example, terrorism, like, yeah, I kind of fell for it, like, back then and all these years. But now that I see how they use it, they use 2 words to justify and shut people up. Like, terrorism and national security. When you throw those 2 words into anything when it comes to justifying the use of force and violence, like, those are just the 2 words that will generally shut people up and make them stop asking questions. But I see it now as, like, they're just words, they're just excuses to do what they want to do.
To that point, for the same thing for the vets, like, support the troops means shut your mouth. If you disagree with it, just shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Whatever we're doing overseas, wherever we're sending them to, just shut your mouth. That's considered unpatriotic. You're doing the un-American thing.
Right.
Remember Hunter Thompson?
No.
He's a journalist, but he had written the day after, "The towers are gone now, reduced to rubble, along with all hopes for peace in our time, in the United States or any other country. Make no mistake about it. We are at war now with somebody, and we will stay at war with that mysterious enemy for the rest of our lives." And it's just, he was around for a long time, and my goodness, what were we doing after World War II? Even before World War II, but after, and all the coups, covert actions, all the military invasions we were doing, constantly at war with somebody, off the radar, until Korea. Even that's the forgotten war, and then Vietnam. And every now and then something will pop up, but not until, the Gulf War in 90 or 91. It's just one enemy after the other. Today is Iran. Russia's always there. China's around the corner.
Yeah, this constant thing that we have to be afraid of these other places. And sometimes I wonder if I'm being naive about it, but given that I've traveled around the world, and I've been to Russia and China, I've been to Afghanistan. I mean, I don't know what people are afraid of. I don't know why we have to look at the world as something to be afraid of. The world is full of people just like you and me, and that's my premise. The world is full of people with families and jobs and dreams, and, I'd rather look at the world the way, and that is how I look at the world, rather than to be falling for these narratives that we have to be scared of China, Russia. I also listen to a lot of analysts who are experts in this, who say that none of these countries are interested in war. They all want to collaborate with us, and we're the ones that are out there saying, they're our enemy, they're our enemy, they're our enemy, and they're like, no, they're not. So it's very frustrating.
And you grab the average, for any of these wars at these times, you grab the average citizen here who thinks there's people over in that country that want to harm us, and then you go to that country and what they look up to. What's America about? Like, maybe whatever feeling that comes up, but it seems to be positive when you ask these people. Like, even the potential to come here, make a way of life, maybe that's not available or is available in their country, but a different way of life.
Yeah.
some people say like a melting pot, right, in the United States. And it's not just U.S. foreign policy that we dehumanize over there, but people are suspect here. I'm going to read a quote. I'm going to go back because it's somebody who was a commander of Western Defense Command before it was Pacific Command. This is Lieutenant General John DeWitt. This is 1942. This is after Pearl Harbor. He's testifying to Congress because he's about to start the concentration camps for Japanese Americans. I don't want any of them, persons of Japanese ancestry here. They are a dangerous element. There is no way to determine their loyalty. It makes no difference whether he is an American citizen, he is still a Japanese. American citizenship does not necessarily determine loyalty, but we must worry about the Japanese all the time until he's wiped off the map. He was in charge of 140,000, so thrown in concentration camps, for which afterwards not a single one was found guilty of any treason or any crime against the state of the United States. And today we demonize immigrants. Every now and then something will come up about Somalis, right? Everything come up, Venezuelans or other people immigrating from South America. Or I keep hearing things about Chinese Americans. Can we trust the Chinese here? It comes up every now and then on Facebook. I'll see things.
Yeah.
And I wonder who's promoting this. Who promotes this for what military thing we're doing abroad?
Yeah. It's, I'm still in the midst of doing a lot of research, but there's so many things there's so many different lenses to be looking at the kind of problems we have today, including Palestine. But like one of the next books I'm going to be reading is how all of these points of view are kind of fed to us through our entertainment industry and our media industry, and we don't even realize that they're trying to shape like a worldview that supports the empire, basically, to put it at a really high level. For our audience at home, any major production that features U.S. military, the DoD has people there going through this. They cut scenes, they change characters. It's always promoting a positive image of the military. And even if it's a bad apple that falls on an airman or a soldier who does something bad, it still upholds the nobility of the military. There's always a major DoD personnel there that are tied with any major production. Video games, Call of Duty, all those, they are loaded. It is all promoting. And I work at a job now where I have staff, coworkers who are obsessed with these first-person, third-person shooters. It's all military related, and they're gung-ho, and they almost naively think, I'm going to go to war in some, like, a paintball game. And I don't know. It's disheartening. I don't know what to do about that. I talk to people, but this is the games, the movies, the conversations about the war. We're crushing Iran, all this. Outside of anybody in the peace movement regarding these things, and I go to the typical workers that I'm working with, I hear this kind of stuff, I'm like, oh my goodness, totally separate worlds. Yeah.
Where the concerns are, what's exciting.
Yeah. I literally just learned what you just were explaining, that there's a DoD person on set. Like, literally, I just learned this 2 days ago, and I'm trying to share it with people, and I think they're having trouble putting their arms around that. That the DoD has a movie budget, is what I heard.
Something like that.
Any film that has a military uniform or a military vehicle involves the DoD and or the CIA, and they have to sign off on everything. So it's,
if they want that funding, if they want access to those bases or those vehicles.
Yeah.
Or people to train on how to use their, like, if you want access, you got to promote the image, and it's only ever really positive.
Yeah.
But there's somebody who I think is still a representative today out of California who was there for the 2001 AUMF against Afghanistan. Barbara Lee, she had spoken out. I'm going to read what she had put into the record. She was the sole dissident on the vote for the AUMF through the House for the invasion of Afghanistan. Now this resolution will pass, although we all know that the president can wage war even without it. However difficult this vote may be, some of us must urge to use restraint. Our country is in a state of mourning. Some of us must say, let's step back for a moment. Let us just pause just for a minute and think through the implications of our actions today so that this does not spiral out of control. Now, I have agonized over this vote, but I came to grips with it today, and I came to grips with opposing this resolution during the very painful yet very beautiful memorial service. As a member of the clergy so eloquently said, as we act, let us not become the evil that we deplore. That was Barbara Lee on September 14th, because that AUMF went almost immediately action. We were in Afghanistan within the month. Al-Qaeda, that was disrupted, that was gone. There's a famous thing with Bush where he says something, we don't care about him anymore, within 6 months of the war. And they're fighting the Taliban, which had nothing to do with 9/11.
Right.
And it just, but she was the sole dissenting vote, and that's what she put in. Let us not become the evil that we deplore.
Well, that is what we have become at this point.
I share the figures from the Cost of War project from the Watson Institute at Brown University. Have you ever?
I've heard of it.
I have the total of what they've calculated for casualties in our global war on terror. Everywhere we've done, even just drone strikes, not just conventional forces or special forces units doing night raids. But between Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, and I do forget the Philippines.
Yeah, I keep hearing it mentioned too, and I'm embarrassed to say that I don't know much about it.
And and some graphs have the Philippines in there and some don't, and I forget, and every now and then I'm like, oh, there was the headline, there was stuff, there was counterterrorism operations going on, but I don't understand it. It's always fallen off my radar because I'm looking at West Asia.
Yeah.
But it's a staggering number, 4.5 to 4.7 million people through direct and indirect deaths from 2001 on up till last year, end of last year. 3.6 to 3.8 indirect. Indirect is not violent, gunshot, bombardment, disease and malnutrition, economic collapse and poverty, displacement, collapsed infrastructure, suicide, domestic violence, mental health related deaths, trauma. Whereas that's and 408,000 have died kinetic violent deaths, mostly from Iraq and Afghanistan, and the number gets smaller from there. But 7.6 million children under 5 suffer from acute malnutrition as of last year from that start. And we go there to liberate, we're liberating these people. And we just move on to the next one, to the next one. We're liberating, and the justification changes, and we forget about them.
Yeah. There was an even bigger number that came out. I can't remember. Maybe it was the Lancet that said we've killed 38 million people in the last 2.5 decades through sanctions, through war.
No doubt. I'm going to read a quote from sanctions, because a lot of people think sanctions are the sanctioning. As Ambassador Friedman would talk about, sanctions are an easy thing for politicians to uphold. It sounds nice, we're sanctioning, we're punishing the regime, but we have little idea of what it actually does to your average person. And in total, we think of like, oh, the refugee crisis, oh, the immigrants, there's too many immigrants coming in, and there's no connection to what we're doing in those countries with the economic sanctions, with the wars. But a conservative estimate, 38 million people in West Asia have fled their homes. You think to Europe, you think from primarily Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, the sanctions regimes that Trump was so kind to say, we got to get rid of this is hurting them, right? He just blatantly put out that. I don't know what weight that has. That should have some weight.
Yeah.
How do you, I always come back to, how do you make sense of this? You're given all these things of what we're doing. What do you do with this? The violent subjugation of the Palestinians, the Iraqis, and Afghans will only ensure that those who oppose us will increasingly speak to us in the language we speak to them, violence. That's a quote from Chris Hedges. I come back to his writing.
Yeah.
What do you do when the imperial boot is at you? When when you have occupational forces at your home?
I was going to say that until recently, and I do live in a bubble now of, where I get my knowledge. So I sometimes forget that I'm in a different news bubble than, for example, my family. But in the social media world where I am following Palestine, Cuba, Iran, there was a lot of education on what sanctions were doing to people in Cuba, more than I'd seen in other stories. And plus, a lot of people went to Cuba to deliver aid, so they were trying to bring greater awareness as to what sanctions are doing to regular people. So I thought that was it's positive for awareness, but we don't really talk. You don't hear much about sanctions in the news other than that we sanctioned people, and you never know what the fallout is, the results.
And
clearly, we've been sanctioning Iran for I don't know how long now, but
yeah,
look at where we are today.
North Korea, since '02 for nuclear weapons program, maybe even before that, in Syria for the fall of Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah.
I wrote a little something here because I would like to, this is one of the things economic sanctions, every time they so gleefully say these things. You can go back to Leslie Stahl's interview with Madeleine Albright in '96 on 60 Minutes. Now this is post-Gulf War. This is the UN sanctions, U.S. sanctions on Iraq, punishing for what Saddam had bought from us for their chemical weapons. So this is Leslie Stahl. We have heard that 500,000 children have died. That's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is it the price worth it? And our ambassador to the UN at the time, I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. That's maybe 500,000, 350,000, tens of thousands of children dying, the inability to families to acquire things because there was almost total import-export ban from Iraq after the Gulf War. And because the idea is, we're going to punish Saddam.
Yeah.
Maybe he's being punished through this, but you are going to collectively punish the population. I did write a thing here that I would like to read. Sanctions, a term used to lessen the harshness of what it is, economic warfare against a population, a means to destabilize a country through collectively punishing their people. U.S. officials say they are punishing the adversarial government, but what they are doing is collectively punishing the working class population of that country. Sanctions make the typical lives so stressful, uncertain, potentially life-threatening. Our officials believe these people will arm themselves to face off against their government. Through this desired civil war, our government will arm proxy groups, fund violent opposition parties, and messaging to overthrow the government, even provide aerial bombarding campaigns and special force operations to sabotage civilian infrastructure. Imagine that in your community. A foreign government restricts your economic activity by banning imports, exports to your country, limiting access to money, creates soaring inflation of your dollars as well as the price of foods and goods and services, enduring power outages and shortages of medical supplies, lack of gasoline. All so unstable that you, a typical citizen, are willing to organize with others and take up arms against your government. Cuba, Iran, Venezuela, Iraq, North Korea, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, Sudan, Lebanon, and Russia. Words of Mike Pompeo, boasting, the sanctions were intended to make the things much worse for the Iranian people with the U.S., much worse for the Iranian people, and we are convincing them that we are convinced that will lead to Iranian people to rise up and change the behavior of the regime. Schumer, recently. The actual Iranian people are secular and pro-American, and they are not poor. They are rising into the middle class. If we could squeeze them economically, you might get them to take to the streets again and at the very minimum put pressure on their government to back off their nuclear escapade, at the very best overthrow the government. All I hear is make them suffer, squeeze them. That was Mike Pompeo, first Trump administration, for the first sanctioned regime after the JCPOA, destroying the relation.
Yeah.
And that was Schumer as of February.
Yeah.
Squeeze them, make them overthrow. You couldn't have more of a Disney, like, just throw it out there as if massive amounts of violence isn't what they're calling for.
Yeah. Well, in all those cases where you listed sanctions, I mean, I don't think in any country have the people risen up against their own government.
No.
They just hate us.
It's just who's doing this to us.
Yeah. It's the logic behind that it doesn't make any sense to me.
I go back to Ambassador Freeman. It's like it's easy for them to do. They pass a bill.
Yeah.
They pass the legislation. They get points. They've stood up against the adversary. They get the check from whatever, their donor party.
Yeah.
And you think all the talk about the people of Syria and Yemen and Somalia, that goes back some time, and Libya, right, and Cuba and Iran. Is this the language of liberating people, bringing them democracy, promoting them?
Yeah.
And we're doing it again and again. And I don't understand.
Americans keep falling for it. There's a lot of problems with, Americans just aren't engaged, for one. They're not engaged. We're not taught to be engaged civically. Secondly, they're very lazy when it comes to news. So maybe lazy isn't the right word, but it's just very easy to turn your TV on and have Fox or CNN or MSNBC versus like going onto your phone and getting on these social media accounts or following podcasting. And a lot of people do podcasting, but we're just, it's hard to not use the word lazy. We are lazy about following real news or understanding news. Like, our media literacy is terrible. And I don't know, and the low civic engagement is a problem. I think those two things together, we just have a country of ignorant people that don't want to look at any bad news.
Let's say it's like this awful thing, but what can I do about it? What can I do?
About the ignorance?
No, for that's awful.
Oh, yes.
What can I do? I can vote. Like, we're told to go out and vote.
Right.
That's it. That's the extent of your duty. Go out and
Yes.
vote. If you have a real problem, maybe you voice your opinion at the town hall. But go out and vote. And you only have two choices.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm saying you have to do more than vote. Like, if you want to be a member of a democracy, if you so value living in this democracy, then not only do you have to vote, but you have to act in between your votes. You need to be a more responsible citizen and be reacting in the 4 years that we have between presidencies. It's a long time for stuff to happen, for you to just sit back and watch. Especially, like, you can see the last 18 months especially, so much damage has been done in such a short time. People get lazy in between elections. And frankly, I was one of those people too, until till recently on the federal level, I was super engaged in local politics for a very long time, which they say is really important for national politics. I'm trying to find how that's connected, because if I talk locally about national issues, my city council just gives me a blank face. Like, this has nothing to do with us.
For the time that we have left, because you'll have to come back on to finish what else I have here. But speaking of politics, local, what's happening at the national level, you've been going to D.C.?
A lot,
talking to
yeah.
people?
A couple times, 2-3 times a year.
What would you like to share with people here that have not experienced going to D.C.? I certainly haven't been to D.C. to talk to any legislature.
I mean, there's two things about it. On the one hand, it's very empowering to be on the Hill and feel like you're doing something. But on the other hand, it's also incredibly frustrating because you don't really get to meet with your representatives. You only get to meet with their staff. and you only get 30 minutes with them. And it takes many phone calls or many emails to get that meeting. That has evolved in my case because I've been doing it, for 3 years now. But I think it's really important to do. To go to the Capitol, to be in that energy center where everything's happening, it matters. It really matters. You have to speak up even if you think that it's not doing anything. It is doing something. Unfortunately, you just have to keep doing it over and over and over again until the change happens. But yeah, I think everybody should go to Capitol Hill at least once and have the experience of what that's like. Because I found it sort of intimidating the first time I did it. I didn't want to do it alone. So I kind of tagged along with this other group from Massachusetts. And then that kind of like broke the ice for me. And now I have no problem walking there by myself.
Okay. Wow. Going there, and one of the quote, I'm going to quote somebody. You come back, you have to get out there. You have to do something. Regardless, we have to do something about this. I can't sit by. Rabbi Greenberg. Let us offer then, as a working principle, the following. No statement, theological or otherwise, should be made that would not be credible in the presence of burning children. And we see everything that's coming out of Gaza at the time, after 2023, and what's being done in the name of defending oneself against the people that had nothing to do with it, disregarding women, children, men, just living their days and what horrible circumstances they were living in. And we have people speak. I have legislatures that speak and say, oh, it's just defending. You get all the rigmarole and gloss over, and like, it's totally unacceptable. And so you make your way to D.C. and you join the New Hampshire Coalition for Just Peace in the Middle East, for which Palestine was front and center as of 2023. Mm-hmm. And yet it's still ongoing. In the background, protests have dropped off about it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, people like Amy and Janet have been doing it for like decades. And, into my almost third year now. And the frustration I feel, but I think back to when I became really active in my own community. And the first project I did in Portsmouth was to do this public art recycling project. And it took me 2 years to get that through the approval process and implementation. I was like, this is recycling. Like, why should it take me 2 years? But this is what democracy is. It takes time. And this Palestine issue is so much bigger, and people have been working on it since 1948, probably. And it's so enormous and really complicated in some ways and really not complicated in other ways. Yeah. But when you go to the DC and you're talking to the representatives there, most of the time they're not really sitting there saying they have a right to defend themselves. They're just listening to you, whatever it is you want to bring to the table, and you don't have to sit there and sort of tolerate them saying, but so-and-so has a right to defend themselves. That's not what happens when you're in a meeting with your reps. That might happen if you're like bird dogging them in the hallway like Code Pink does all the time. And you can see just how depraved and corrupt and evil these people are, the way they respond to her. But, well, actually, I have to cut it there. I'd like to say thank you for coming on.
Was that really an hour already?
It was an hour already. And thank you for tuning in at home.